Hello and welcome back to another FPL video. Today we are doing our transfer tips for game week 4 and looking at last week's transfers. Might I say we absolutely smashed it out of the park. Out of the 8 transfers that we looked at last week, 7 of them went how we would have planned them to do. So our 2 buys in Watkins and Lewis both returned. Our sell in Nkunku was also a success, with him again only coming off the bench to get minutes. Our keeps, obviously Eze done really well finally after 2 game weeks of disappointment. Isak as well done very nicely with a 9-pointer. The only disappointment there was Bruno Fernandes, who once again continues to punish owners, and hopefully we can at least get a return from him this week, so at least the keep does actually pay off. So hopefully he can do something against Southampton away from home. And then our voids in Morgan Rogers and Madueke, again both being successes with both of those guys blanking. So let's have a look at what we're doing this week. Now first up, we don't have any stats planned for this one or anything like that, but Onana is one of the most transferred players in this week, and for me he's just a very clear avoid. He's one of those guys similar to like Rodri last year. He scored a couple goals very early on and then get mass sold off a couple weeks later when he didn't continue that. Now again, I think this is easily just another repeat of that, with a defensive midfielder scoring a couple goals early on and then everyone jumps onto it. No, but for me, Onana 100% is someone you don't want to be buying for your team. You can see his expected points over the next few. He's basically expected to score about 3 points over the next 3 games. Yes, the fixtures are really nice, and while I don't like him as much, you might as well just go for Morgan Rogers at 5 million as well if you really wanted an Aston Villa player. That way at least you're getting someone more advanced. But again, I don't really like either of them, but for me straight away, I think we're just saying Onana is a avoid. Now next we're looking at Luis Diaz, now another one who is very popular. I believe he's the second highest transferred player in this week with just under 700,000 transfers. Now he has already risen price this week, unfortunately, with a lot of the Champions League videos and the international break. We can't really get this video out too early, so we're not going to be able to beat all of the price rises. Diaz has already risen, and he's basically what we expected Jota to be. He's what Jota owners, non-Salah owners, wanted to get out of Jota. Jota's obviously been a bit of a disappointment after game week 1, but Diaz has essentially been exactly what we wanted Jota to be. He's been absolutely fantastic, and essentially he's basically matched Salah, not to the extent that Salah can obviously offer, obviously being the highest scoring player in the game right now with 41 points, but for the 5 million cheaper, this is kind of what we were expecting. Now when you look at the goals and assists, he has matched Salah on goals with 3 each. Salah obviously has more assists with 3 to Diaz's 1, but Diaz has actually outscored Salah on expected goals. You can see Diaz there on 1.9 xg to Salah's 1.7, so in terms of expected goals, Diaz is actually in front. So again, it's good signs for the future, obviously, with some nice fixtures coming up. In terms of shots to shot on target, it's essentially again the same. Salah obviously having 2 extra shots on target, and that's it. So again, for 5 million cheaper, this is kind of what you do expect. Obviously not someone who's going to be able to match Salah every single week, but someone for that 5 million price tag that is going to at least be able to keep up just a little bit behind him. And then expected points for the next 5 games, of course Salah is going to be way ahead on this, so he is getting an extra 15, but again for the 5 million price tag, it depends on what you can do with that 5 million. So for me, Diaz 100% if you're going without Salah, and even if you wanted to double up on the Liverpool midfield, I think you could go for both of them, but Diaz is 100% a buy this week. Now following him, we have the most popular transfer in this week, and it is João Pedro. Now it is definitely with good reason. For me, he is 100% a buy. He is someone who I brought into my team before he rose in price to 5.7, and definitely a buy. His fixtures look fantastic. He has done very well off the start of this season. You can see his next 3 games, he is expected to do fairly well. Obviously a difficult game against Chelsea, but the 2 fixtures with Ipswich and Nottingham Forest Forest are definitely ones where I could see him doing well in. Now, a big dilemma that a lot of people are having this week is whether to pick João Pedro or Danny Welbeck. Now, both of them have done very, very well off the start of this season, but looking at them both side by side, again, very, very similar stats. They are both the same price, both at well, they both were priced at 5.5 million at the start of the season. Looking at them both together, Danny Welbeck does have that extra assist, and he is leading on expected goals as well. So Danny Welbeck on 1.4 xg to João Pedro's 0.9. In terms of shots, the shots on target, again, very, very similar. Welbeck just having that one extra shot that did go off target. Now, in terms of expected points over the next 5 games, João Pedro is leading by 5 points. Now, for me, João Pedro definitely is the one that you're going to want to get over Danny Welbeck, purely because of the penalty factor. It is a big, big thing in FPL, and it's a big thing that you want to take into consideration. Now, yes, Danny Welbeck does slightly edge it in attacking stats, but this whole set piece penalty taker thing is a big, big thing, and for me, definitely makes João Pedro the one to go for of the two. Now, next up, we're looking at Bukayo Saka. Now, he's someone who has actually been heavily sold off this week, and I'm very, very surprised by it. Now, he is expected to drop in price in the next week or so. Depending on how many transfers he gets out within the next couple of days, he could actually see himself decreasing in price before the game at the weekend. Now, 300,000 transfers out, purely because obviously they do have some pretty difficult fixtures. They've got Spurs away, followed by Man City away next week. However, the fixtures after that are very, very good. I believe it's Leicester at home, then Southampton, and then it might be Nottingham Forest. I can't actually remember who that is, but it's definitely a fixture run that you're going to want Saka for. Now, he has already risen price to 10.1 million, so if he does drop, I don't believe that you will lose any money on him, so it's not the end of the world. It is just a little bit frustrating, but when you actually look deep into the stats with Saka, now he actually has a pretty decent record against Spurs. So you look at it in the bottom right, he has returned in the last 3 games against Spurs that he has played in with 2 goals and an assist. Now, for me, it's definitely not someone I'd be looking to sell ahead of a North London derby. It's really only the Man City game that I think would be quite difficult, but I wouldn't be selling him for one fixture, especially when he has such a good fixture run after that. In terms of the points so far, again, it's not even like he's been performing poorly. You know, he's the 5th highest point scorer in the game so far with 24 points, and in terms of expected points over the next 5 games, he does sit in 3rd, only behind the 2 big boys in Salah and Haaland. So for me, 100% is an absolute keep. I think he does well against Spurs, even with what looks to be an Odegaard injury. He looks as though he's really hurt his ankle, so whether that affects Saka too much or actually makes him a better option, we're going to be able to see that at the weekend. But for me, 100% is definitely one I want to keep, because I think he's got the easily get the potential to score or assist against Spurs, and then it's really just that Man City game, which he obviously can still perform in, but then you've got that big fixture run afterwards, which he is 100% someone that you're going to want. Now, next up, we have another buy, and it's Andy Robertson this time, the left back of the best defence in the league so far. Now, obviously, Liverpool have not conceded a goal yet, so that's 3 clean sheets in the bag for him already, and the bad fixtures have not came around yet, so Liverpool do still have some really nice fixtures, and you can see by his expected points he is still looking quite good. And then we look at his stats, he's one of the best defenders for creativity as well this season. Now, he doesn't just live up to Trent Alexander-Arnold on the opposite side, but obviously you can get him for $1 million cheaper. Now, obviously, I personally believe both of them are players you're going to want in your squad for the next couple of weeks, but if I had to pick one, I think for the $1 million cheaper, there's no harm in going for Robertson. You can see with the key passes, he is sitting in 3rd for the league in defenders. This is 3rd in the league, just behind Pedro Porro and obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, in terms of expected points for defenders over the next 5 games, he is actually number 1, so this is why I do think you can get away with him and save the $1 million over Trent Alexander-Arnold. I do think if you already have Trent, you can easily just buy Robbo as well, and I think that would be a fantastic partnership for the next couple of games. Even if you're on a wild card in game week 6, You can obviously make adjustments there, but I definitely think for the next 3 game weeks you 100% want Andy Robertson. Now, in order to buy a 6 million defender, you obviously have to sell someone of similar price, and the person that is going to be going is going to be William Saliba, who is also 6 million. Now, the fixtures just aren't that great, and obviously with a defender, with a centre back, it's not really one that you can hold through a bad period of fixtures, because you really are expecting clean sheets. You're wanting clean sheets from your centre backs, and I don't think that's going to come for the next 2 games for Arsenal. Personally, I think this is more ideal for someone who is on a wildcard 6 strategy, because you can just sell them off right now. You don't have to worry about price drops, you don't have to worry about price rises, because it's very unlikely that he rises before game week 6, and then you can just buy him back in a wildcard, and obviously you miss these 2 fixtures with Tottenham and Man City. So I think it's pretty obvious he has already been transferred out 225,000 times, and I definitely think that is a smart move, to at least just move on Saliba or Gabriel if you do own Gabriel instead, and move them on to a Liverpool defender, whether that is Trent or obviously Robertson. And then finally we move on to our last transfer of the week, and that is Antoine Semenyo. Now, he's someone that I think I would just be looking to avoid. A very, very popular transfer in this week, 250,000 transfers in, and as much as he does look like a fantastic player, again, like, absolutely no doubt about that, he has looked absolutely brilliant in the first 3 game weeks. I just don't think the fixtures are someone I would want to be getting. Obviously, as you can see by the expected points, they do say a little bit differently. He is still expected to do quite well, but when we look at the actual stats here, you look at the fixture list across the next 7 fixtures, and he's literally playing against some of the hardest teams in the league. You can see there's Liverpool away in there, he's got Arsenal, he's got Man City, all 3 of those in the next 7 games, and on top of that you can add Aston Villa away and obviously Chelsea in game week 4, so some very, very difficult fixtures. And even when we look at, for example, last season, I wouldn't have owned Solanke for Bournemouth if he had this fixture run, so I don't think I'd be wanting to own Semenyo for the same fixture run. Obviously it is a little bit different, but it's just something to kind of put into perspective. In terms of expected goals for midfielders, you can see Semenyo is sitting there in 10th place below Son and De Bruyne, and yes, that is very good, but he's not like some sort of superstar that I think is fixture proof, which is why I don't think it's a good move to move towards him right now. Now, obviously, when you're looking at the game week 6 and 7 fixtures, they are fixtures that you probably are going to want Semenyo. I think he could do really well in those ones, but is it worth getting him in now just to have 2 good fixtures and then potentially move him out in game week 8? I don't think so. I think if I was going to be getting him in, I would be waiting another 2 weeks, or again, as I said, a wildcard 6. That way you can bring him in then, and then obviously move him out 2 weeks later. Now, in terms of expected points for midfielders for the next 5 game weeks, he is down in 16th, and it is below the likes of Anthony Gordon, James Maddison. So again, players who haven't really done too well, only expected to score 23 points in the next 5 games, which is still a fair amount, but again, I think there's a lot better options that you can go for the long term, which have obviously a lot better fixtures. And that is it for this week's transfer tips. So again, we have 7 players here, not really too much other players that I did see that really kind of like piqued my interest in terms of who to buy, sell, keep or avoid. So these are the 7 we've got. We've only got 1 sell this week. Again, like I said, I didn't really think there was too many options. I didn't really want to do a couple of extra sells just for the sake of it. So we've got 7 good options here, which I really do believe in, and we will see how we get on next week. So if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like, please make sure to subscribe if you are new, and I will see you all in the next one.